TikTok is now banned in Montana. I live in a country where such a ban on certain enemy social networks was implemented a few years ago. What will happen is this. Teens will download a shit ton of VPN applications, the vast majority of which are specifically produced and marketed by the enemy to circumvent said ban. Then all users' phone traffic gets routed via the enemy VPN, instead of just the social app's requests. Win-win for both sides. The government gets populistic approval from the elderly population. The adversary gets way more US users' data than they ever dreamed of.
Let's say establishing policies to reduce the use of TikTok in the population is the right move. What policies would you suggest?
What would be the specific harm of TikTok? Is it because of China or because of this style of social media apps? If it's because of China, then ban TikTok and subsidize a competitor app, but be serious about it. Be ready to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on keeping the app free and servers up for years, sponsoring hundreds of content creators, dragging celebrities in to produce exclusive content, burning tons of money on all kinds of loss-generating marketing bullshit. Like, publish a video from concert best 100 videos win a Nintendo Switch, for each concert in the state country for the next few years. Point being, if you can provide a TikTok alternative and make it extremely attractive, even if by literally giving away hundreds of dollars to each new user, then kids won't care about using TikTok anymore. Now, if it's not about China but teenage use of social media, put an absurdly high tax on smartphones, like 1,000%. That will make sure they become unavailable to a typical teenager. Beyond that, I don't think you can do much about it directly or in the immediate term.
What does the government have to do with what apps I use in my free time? Are they also going to force me to read non-fiction instead of fiction, because it's the right move? This sounds like some dystopian crap. What committee decides which apps are good for you or not, and how long is long enough?
TikTok is evil. Let's stop with the whataboutism.
I wrote up a quick analysis last night here. https://.exchange/ninvism/110,247,627,189,198. Here are the takeaways. It'd be easy for Apple and Google to prevent downloads of TikTok for most users, which would also include app updates, as they have a significant amount of knowledge of users' locations and could prevent most users in Montana, even those using a VPN, from downloading the app or updating it. It'd be very difficult for Montana to enforce the other piece of the TikTok ban. If entity in the bill means any company, they're stuck. The state has little ability to prevent side loading of apps on Android, and users who want TikTok can access app repositories hosted out of state. There's virtually no way for ISPs inside Montana to surveil all user usage to find out if they're trying to download TikTok from a third-party repository, and even if they could, there would be legal issues with the state mandating this. Fundamentally, this makes user privacy and security much worse. Apple, Google, and ByteDance could be aggressive and use the data they have. All three have GPS data for most or all relevant users here, i.e. TikTok users on an iPhone or Android, and block requests to download or use TikTok from within Montana. And they probably will, unless they get a court to block the bill. The one thing the bill banning TikTok doesn't do is the one thing that is desperately needed: actually protect user privacy by banning the collection, aggregation, sale, and use of fine-grained user data by ByteDance, Meta, Google, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, or any other.
Side-loading of apps on Android. 90% plus users are never going to use apps. If this ban kills the network effect, the R0 of the viral infection, then the last 10% aren't going to last long either.
But if this keeps trending, more future bans, it will nudge more people to sideload, to get around stupid middlemen who get in their way. Countries who engage in these bans have conditioned many non-tech people to learn to use VPNs and other tools. Sideloading is the norm on desktop too, by the way, and always has been.
It'd be very difficult for Montana to enforce the other piece of the TikTok ban. I don't know if it is technically and legally feasible in Montana, but you just need to block the endpoints that the app uses to fetch the data. It is not foolproof, but given that ByteDance probably has interest in keeping doing business in the rest of the USA, at least for now, it would be finable in case it was trying to avoid the block.
Tomorrow's story. Residents of Montana discover VPNs and how to use them. Between Utah and Montana, the awareness and use of VPNs is rising among the non-security conscious, and this is a good thing.
So, I avoided VPNs for years because they had no practical benefit. I live in Utah, and I would consider myself very technically adept. Previously, I didn't like VPNs because now I'm just routing all my traffic through another untrusted third party. It's like choosing between two evils. Would I prefer my ISP knows where I go, or some rando that I also have to pay? Worse, the rando usually requires a VPN app which could get up to all sorts of fuckery. So, yada yada yada. Well then, two things happened back to back. The VPN provider Mulvad was unsuccessfully raided, and Utah passed hyper-totalitarian laws. On the recent PR news, I investigated Mulvo, and they're fantastic. You don't have to use their app. They support straight open nor WireGuard, and are Linux native. And I can pay them in BTC, further obscuring myself. Because of Utah's law, the vast majority of my traffic is now directed over a VPN. I don't even really go to porn sites all that often. It's more the principle of it. The more the state pushes to limit and remove freedoms, the more I will do everything in my power to push the other way. It's the hacker mindset, D.
Installed the app last night. It would be interesting to see their DAU graph for the state. Something worthwhile noting here is that the usual politicians don't understand the technology. Sentiment doesn't apply here because our governor at least knows how to code Perl and ran a software company.
Why would you install that app on your personal phone? Even in some misplaced sense of rebellion, you're basically inviting spyware into your life.
Gonna back this up. From the security research I've read, the app uploads over 2 GB of data once installed over the course of 1 month, without any interaction at all from the user.
What is the data? Doesn't iOS limit access to anything outside of the app? It has to ask to access contacts, photos, location. If you just use it to scroll through stupid videos, what does it even have access to?
One underappreciated aspect of this is ban, is that anyone who wants TikTok will just go download it in Wyoming or Idaho, etc., as it seems to be merely a ban on downloading the app, and not a ban on TikTok traffic itself. So the ban will have near zero actual impact in practice, even if it somehow makes it into effect. Furthermore, it's unclear if the web app of TikTok will be affected, or if it's only a ban on the mobile app. Source: Am Montanan.
Last I heard, there was a per-use fine for usage as well. Honestly, I haven't looked at this farce of a bill since it was first introduced. Edit. S1. An entity violates this prohibition when any of the following occurs within the territorial jurisdiction of Montana. A. The operation of TikTok by the company or users. Or B. The option to download the TikTok mobile application by a mobile application store.
Does a state even have a right to do something like this? Somehow, I feel like if California tried to ban Fox News, it would not fly. This doesn't seem that different, though I personally find it amusing that it's coming from a conservative state. I do agree TikTok is toxic trash, but I'd say the same about Fox News, and it just doesn't seem like something a state has the ability to ban.
It's predictable that it's coming from a conservative state. That they are broadly against using state power to ban things is part of their identity and marketing, but not reality. Especially when it can be construed as a social moral problem.
Yeah, nothing like banning people from going to restaurants without a state-issued vaccine pass. We didn't forget.
Is there a precedent of app stores needing to enforce app restrictions on a state-by-state basis? What if Apple protests and just disables their store in MT? It would only impact at most 500,000 people. Population 1 millimeter at 50% market share, not accounting for demographics. A huge number of angry Montanians who might vote their representatives out, but a rounding error for Apple.
And demands mobile app stores make the app unavailable for Montana residents. Oh, so now they've made an enemy of Google and Apple's legal teams? Because those two aren't going to want to set a precedent for all sorts of bans across random jurisdictions.
They already do. Plenty of apps are banned in various countries, if I recall correctly.
Need to add, here's what you need to know. to the automatic clickbait remover.
My only consolation in this shitstorm is that it's been expanded to include all social media applications that collect and provide users' personal information or data to a foreign adversary, or a person or entity located within a country designated as a foreign adversary. So yeah, I guess it's time to shut 'em all down. Now we just wait for the "I didn't mean American companies" retraction.
But such bans don't include domestic companies spying on people and providing that data to domestic entities says everything about how bankrupt this whole thing is.
That the US is illegally spying on its own citizens is bad, but not as bad as allowing an explicitly hostile, autocratic foreign power to turn a massive propaganda and surveillance platform on US citizens. The US has many problems, but I'd still rather live in its admittedly somewhat rough approximation to transparent liberal democracy than under a completely and explicitly unaccountable regime like the Chinese Communist Party. It would be foolish to allow the CCP to abuse our liberal values in a way which undermines the security upon which liberal society depends.
What happened to freedom of speech? I thought many politicians, especially Republicans, cry for free speech.
What does free speech have to do with this?
TikTok videos are speech. Therefore, banning TikTok is a violation of free speech.
I don't think freedom of speech applies to foreign companies.
Slightly off topic. I'm not sure I've heard the government stating it plainly in the recent years. The People's Republic of China is an adversary of the United States. From the bill. Did I just miss it, glance over, or is this out of character for officially released government documents?
I wonder how many Chinese manufactured goods the state of Montana bought yesterday while issuing this statement.
The People's Republic of China is an adversary of the United States. Sent from my iPhone.
They threaten regularly to go to war with us over Taiwan. People before WW1 thought war was impossible, thanks to how the economy was so interconnected. Russia invaded Ukraine, despite how tied they were to Europe economically. To suggest China can't be an adversary just because we trade is a blunder made many times in history, and it fails, time and time again. Don't fall for it.
No one is saying that China can't be an adversary. People are saying that maybe US politicians shouldn't be blatantly labeling them as an adversary, just to score some xenophobic rage porn points with Fox News viewers.
It's interesting that some oppose Musk running Twitter, its moderation, policies, and algorithms, because of his sympathies for a mainstream American political party. And at the same time, carry water for TikTok, who is legally obligated to cooperate with China's intelligence service in any way they require. Knowing that the Chinese regime runs genocidal slave labor rape camps and will extract and sell your organs for free speech and religious practices. I suspect that they don't realize that the CCP controlling the TikTok algorithms is more dangerous, making the QAnon shaman product manager for the algorithms at Meta, Google, and Twitter.
I hope that this shifts the Overton window toward discussion about banning Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. They play a major role in exacerbating the divisions in the society and the rising suicide rate. Those domestic platforms do a better job at undermining the national security than any foreign force could dream of.
How do you reconcile this position with the First Amendment?
From the Constitution. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. There is nothing there that explicitly grants private enterprises the right to store, sell, and manipulate your free speech.
There is nothing there that explicitly grants private enterprises the right to store, sell, and manipulate your free speech. Because the Constitution limits the government. It doesn't grant rights to private enterprise or the people, of which private enterprise is a superset. Note the 9th and 10th Amendments, which explicitly state that the rights listed in the Constitution are not exhaustive, and that all such rights not enumerated in the Constitution are granted to the states and the people. So the right of private enterprise to store, sell, and manipulate your free speech, which is just a bad faith framing of moderation as a violation of civil rights, is implicit to the right of free speech itself, a right which is neither defined by, and which cannot be limited by, the First Amendment to begin with. Although yes, there are limits even within the US. Those limits are usually very strictly scrutinized. Banning all major social media platforms, because They play a major role in exacerbating the divisions in the society, and the rising suicide rate, on the basis that the Constitution doesn't explicitly say you can't, is blatantly contrary to the spirit of the First Amendment and the whole philosophy of free speech in American law.